all seems so inconsequential.
Sammy Sosa's reaction.
And you've got to think that as Mark McGwire rounded first base, he might have looked at Sammy to get that little gesture.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, they're both pulling for each other, and it's a great rivalry. I can tell you, this has been one heck of a race all year. I think they pushed each other to greater heights.
That ball fair by maybe 8 or 10 feet, probably as fair as the one was foul yesterday. Unbelievable moment downtown St. Louis. And the Cardinals have taken the lead over the Cubs. And it's only his first at bat. Langford fouls another one out of play.
Becomes the second in history to reach 61 home runs.
Well, not only that, John, he also erases the stigma that goes with Babe Ruth's 154-game 60 home run record. He has broken that record as well. So no longer will there be an asterisk in the book, which was taken away by Fay Vincent anyway, but no longer will that be a topic of conversation.
And that's ball 4 to Langford. Two down, runner at first, and Ron Gant. And Roger has company now at 61. Again, as we had started to mention, Roger Maris's widow, Mrs. Pat Maris, when she arrived here in town, actually started feeling ill on the flight to St. Louis, as we understand it, and had to be hospitalized, although they say she's doing fine now. Langford running, and he easily steals second base. His 20th steal of the year. Well, number 60 for McGwire was not the kind of McGwire-ian home run that we've come to expect. It was a high, towering fly ball that landed in the seats in left field. But this one, this was quite a shot. And
you're in row 6-2, seat 1, and let's see.
That ball hit off the windows of the restaurant out there in left field, just below the upper deck, and then ricocheted down. And you just saw the point in the, I guess, the first or second row right down there in the lower level where it landed. So somebody down there was able to retrieve the carom. And Ron Gant has a walk.
This is a line drive. It's not really, it's a fastball that hits the middle of the plate and hits a line drive down the left field line. As you call it, John, it's fair or foul. It was close to being foul. And I can't personally see where it landed, but I know it was over the fence.
They measured it, or they estimated the measurement at 430 feet. There you see it hit the window and ricochet down below. This is young Fernando Tatis, acquired from Texas. First ball swinging. Grace has to put out. But Mark McGwire has a share of history now. 61 homers. It is now Maris and McGwire. Not quite 37 years to the date of Maris's hitting number 61. And another ovation for McGwire.
John, one of the tough things is for the opposing players. When you hit a home run like that, he rounded first base. Mark Grace gave him a high five. And I know a lot of the other players wanted to congratulate him too, but you just don't know what to do sometimes. because this guy's just hit a home run that's put your team behind. So you're not sure exactly what you should be doing. Well, there's the swing, and he knows it's a home run if it stays fair, and he knows he hit it so hard he couldn't hook. And there's the Maris family behind him.
And Stan Musial down there. There's the Maris family.
And they have to have mixed emotions, too. I'm sure they didn't want his record broken like his parents did, but by the same token, you know, I think they're happy that this has brought a lot of fame to their father.
John and Ginger McGwire sharing a great moment. And then young Matt McGwire was the first out to greet him upon crossing home plate. And then pointing up toward his mom and dad. Sammy Sosa reacted as well. And then the fans just would not stop cheering. McGwire came out and took one bow, but the cheering continued long after that.
And John, you can see, I mean, even Sammy Sosa, I mean, he's out there clapping, but he doesn't do it with a lot of emotion because, I mean, you don't want your starting pitcher to see you out there clapping because you just gave up a home run to the opposition.
Well, and of course, I'm sure he had mixed feelings. He's been rooting for McGwire all along. He's made no secret of that. But at the same time, his ball club is in a pennant race, trying to make October baseball. And Sosa has been saying over and over again, that is the primary goal for him, not the home run record. Darren Oliver back to work now to Glen Allen Hill. 1 ball, 1 strike to count. Hill, Gaetti, and Morandini for the Cubs. McGwire. Oliver got a late break over there, and Hill is safe. Oliver did not break off the mound immediately, and it cost him. And a very warm welcome. In fact, welcome back to Gary Gaetti. He helped the Cardinals win a division title 2 years ago. And to become a favorite here, hard-nosed player. And he has been a great pickup for the Cubs, trying to help them get into October. And that's ball 1. Joe, you mentioned the players not quite sure how to react because certainly the Cubs players in the field were excited to be a part of the great moment. Barry Larkin, the veteran of the Cincinnati Reds who were in here over the weekend, had many of the young guys seek his counsel as Gaetti drives one into left, but he hit it off the end of the bat, and Gant on the warning track for out number 1. Gaetti didn't miss by very much in hitting that one out of here.
Well, John, I was on the field when Hank Aaron hit home run number 714 to tie Babe Ruth's career record, and he's trotted toward second base. I had mixed emotions about what I should say or do, and I, made eye contact with him, and I just kind of nodded, congratulations, but I did not want to, embarrass my teammate, the pitcher, who had just given up the home run. So it is a tough thing to do.
Here is Mickey Morandini.
You want to salute the guy for what he did because you, first and foremost, as another player and another professional, you appreciate what he has done. But by the same token, first and foremost, this is still a team game.
And that's a strike, 0-2. Well, Barry Larkin advised his young Reds teammates, and this is what you're saying. He said, don't make a spectacle of yourself. If you're close to him and he wants to shake your hand, shake it. Don't do anything to affect the integrity of the game. I mean, you're still out there as opponents battling each other. That's a foul off the left field line.
And it's easy to get caught up in the moment, when something like that happens. But again, this is a team game.
I caught number 57. Big Mac hit me 62. He's not satisfied with just number 57. Back to the bag is Glen Allen Hill. 1-0. The Cardinals lead in the second inning on McGwire's laser beam of a home run. Delano DeShields will go to first. Out number 2. Well, that home run landed in the stands in left field. Let's find out who's got it. Here's Dave Campbell.
Thanks, John. Mike Davidson is the young man's name. You want to show us the ball? What's it got? A special number? Must be infrared. In your own seats, how long have you had the tickets?
Well, they're my brother-in-law's seats. He just gave them to me because he's working today. He's got season tickets for the past 3 years.
What are you going to do with it?
Give it back.
Who to?
Mark McGwire.
What a guy. You want anything for it?
No, not really.
All right, Mike, congratulations. You get it on the rebound. How hard did you have to fight for it?
It just rolled underneath the seat, and I just picked it up and held on to it for dear life.
Get your pack of Lucky Charms, John.
All right, Dave, congratulations. And I like to hear that.
I know you do. I'm not in complete agreement, but that's what makes a horse race.
Well, he may have some friends and neighbors and even family who say, "You schmuck, you could have sold that for a fortune." And there he is. It fell into the seat, and he picked it up. And then they piled on. He looked like a quarterback as the gun was going off, Joe. He just fell on the ball and wrapped it up.
Well, I think the interesting thing and the fun thing for me is that when someone has secured the balls in the past, the people have stopped scrambling and let him, be the hero.
2-0 the count. Scott Service, the hitter. Runner at second. Cubs need a base hit to tie this game. A strike over the outside. The pitcher, Mike Morgan, would be next. Well, when Maris hit number 61, a young kid named Sal Durante, about 20 years old, he was the one who ended up with the ball. And a restaurateur from Northern California had in advance offered $5,000 for the ball. Sal Durante was brought down to meet Roger Maris at Yankee Stadium after the game, and he offered the ball back to Roger instead of going for the money. But Maris handed the ball back to him and said, "You keep it. Maybe you can make some money with it."
And that's exactly what Sammy Sosa did. A guy brought the ball to him. Sammy signed it and gave it back to him.
Yeah. Actually, a woman in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, I think that, as Sammy said, the ball means more to you than it would to me. But that wasn't number 61 or 2. That was...
Well, it was the all-time... Actually, it tied the Cubs record at Wrigley Field. It was a great story because the woman who works for the Chicago Tribune had brought her glove to the game and also had a little sign that said, "Sammy, hit number 56 to me and I'll give it back to you." And a few moments later, he hit it to her. She caught it. Service down the left field line. Gant on the move. He's got it. 1 man left. 1-0. Mark McGwire has hit number 61 here in St. Louis.
Okay, everybody still number 1. Mercedes-Benz and Lexus.
Number 1.
Porsche, Audi, Land Rover. Number 1. Infiniti.
Infinity's still number 1, John. We've got great selection, fabulous leases, but our floor traffic's off just a little bit.
Huh. BMW. Where's Jerry?
Hey, Jerry, our BMW sales this week.
Better, Tony. Much better.
Plaza Motors, the luxury car center of the universe. I-270 and Olive.
One official Major League Baseball, $9. New ball, $9. New ball, $9. New ball, new ball, new ball, $9. New windshield, $100. 62, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Official card of Major League Baseball and believer that records were made to be broken.
For over 42 years, Doc's Harley-Davidson has been the only exclusively Harley dealership in the St. Louis area. And Doc's clothing department has one of the largest selections of Harley leatherwear anywhere. Doc's carries genuine Harley parts and accessories, and a service department that can handle everything from normal maintenance to performance and custom work. They also carry tons of aftermarket items. And right now, Doc's is offering 20% off on all Harley leatherwear in stock. If you want Harley, you want Doc's. Doc's Harley-Davidson.
Bill Pito back in the studio. The scene at Shea when they saw that McGwire hit number 61. They saw it on the Jumbotron, and the place, as you might expect, went bananas. Mets in the dugout, clapping their hands right now. A rain delay. The top of the fourth, with the Mets up 4-0.
So the Mets have a big lead there at Shea, but the same thing happening at Shea virtually that was happening here. The fans erupted in a huge ovation upon getting a look at Big Mac hitting number 61. And, of course, that shot was from New York.
And you can see the players there can voice their opinion and show that they enjoyed it because they're not, involved in the game here.
Yeah. Of course, the Mets are hoping that McGwire hits like 5 or 6 home runs today against the Cubs. They're one game back of the Cubs in the wild card battle. Here is Placido Polanco, the rookie shortstop for the Cardinals, to bat against Mike Morgan. 1-0. The Cardinals lead on McGwire's home run. I was in Los Angeles over the weekend, and on Saturday, at least 3 hours after McGwire had hit number 60 here, between innings at Dodger Stadium, they ran a videotape on the big board in left field of McGwire hitting the home run. And Polanco is thrown out by Hernandez. There is one away. Immediately when McGwire appeared on the screen, Dodger Stadium erupted in an ovation. And then when he hit the home run, 3 hours later, I mean, the videotape of him hitting the home run, Dodger Stadium erupted just as if it had happened there. So that's a place where they don't love the Cardinals. They don't love the opposition. Shea Stadium, a hostile enemy place if you're the opposition. But the country and beyond the country captivated by McGwire and Sosa. Darren Oliver, the pitcher. Hard to brace, but a nice pickup. He made it look easier than it was, I think. 2 down.
John, I want to read your statement. You talk about class, and I agree with you. That young fella out there in left field has class. I want to read something that Philippe Alou said, and I've always known that Philippe Alou had a lot of class. He says, the game of baseball is more important than keeping any one player from a record. He said, you should never interfere with the integrity of the game. It's sacred, and it's up to all of us who put on a major league uniform to make sure the game stays above all else. And I guess the point there is that, you have to go ahead and play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And I like that. And I think that's kind of tells you a lot about Philippe Alou, just the way that he thinks as a manager. His job is to still keep the integrity of the game at the forefront. Not just go out there and walk McGwire and don't pitch to him and, make a farce of the game.
Eli Marrero, the hitter. 2 down, nobody on. Mike Morgan delivers, and Marrero goes deep into left field, and that one is gone. On the day where McGwire hit his 61st, Eli Marrero, the man they think will be the catcher here for a good many years to come, hits his 4th.
Yeah, but the great thing, John, is the box score will be there. This box score is going to go up to Cooperstown, and, it's going to be around for a long time. The box score from this game will have Marrero hitting a home run. So you still want to perform on this day. Just because Mark McGwire is going to overshadow you doesn't really take away from your performance.
Delano DeShields grounds out. So to be in the lineup with him, an honor. But to be right next to him in the home run column in that box score, that's special. Cardinals 2, Cubs nothing. McGwire 61, Sosa 58. Sammy Sosa would be due up 5th here in the 3rd inning. And there it's posted on the hand-operated scoreboard, which also features the out-of-town scores in baseball here at Busch Stadium. And you see the Mets leading Atlanta 4-0. That game is in a rain delay now. Mike Morgan hits one deep into center. Langford way back there. It's over his head and up into the Botanical Gardens. An automatic double from Mike Morgan. And that one stunned Ray Langford, who was playing real shallow out there.
Well, everybody's got power on their mind today.
Mike Morgan now is 3 for 3 as a Cub. He didn't hit all year in Minnesota. Those have been his only 3 at-bats of the whole season. Now Lance Johnson. Cubs having to play catch-up here. Strike Mike on the outside. Shallow center. Delano DeShields will let Langford take it. One gone. And now Jose Hernandez will come up. Sammy Sosa from the small town of San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican Republic. When he was 7 years of age, his father died. And Sammy was the 5th of 11 children. He has 8 brothers and 2 sisters. So when he was 7 years old, the family, the mother and all of those children, left to fend for themselves, and everybody worked, including Sammy, who became a shoe shine boy, got 20 cents per shoe shine. And one of his older brothers encouraged him when he was about 14 to play baseball. Sammy didn't like baseball that much. He was too busy working anyway. But they were playing in the back lot one day, and his brother saw something in his swing. And he said, hey, I think he's got something. That is booted by Polanco. And Hernandez is safe on the error. So his brother said, come on, I'm going to put you in this league because you're the one of us who has a chance to make it.
Ground ball to shortstop. He doesn't get in front of it, and the ball gets away from shortstop.
So 2 men on, and now Mark Grace is up, and unless Grace hits a double play, Sosa would follow him. So the big hitters are up now for the Cubs with 2 men on, 1 man out in the 3rd inning, and that's a ball. So Sosa, inspired by the idea that maybe he could make it and bring some serious money into the family, then at the urging of his brother, pursued baseball. He had no money for a glove or for shoes. He used a stick for a bat and a halved milk carton for a glove. He'd just use it until it would fall apart, and they'd get another milk carton. He says he was a young guy, had not played much ball, and the way Sammy puts it, he says, I got everything from God. I started playing well, and 2 years later he was signed by the Texas Rangers at age 16. Mark McGwire. That is out number 2, and now Sammy Sosa will come up with 2 men on and first base open.
And the Cardinals fans really have showed a lot of class here, you know, by the reception they're giving Sammy Sosa. I mean, it's just amazing. But I think the Cardinal fans have always been big baseball fans first.
And this is, for all these many years, been one of the great rivalries, not just in baseball, but in all of sports. 2 great franchises dating back into the 19th century. 2 natural rivals for more than 100 years. And there's ball 1 to Sammy Sosa. He fouled out to McGwire his first time.
And they're booing on a ball to Sammy Sosa like they boo if you throw a ball to Mark McGwire. But you mentioned there are probably a lot of Cubs fans here.
Beautiful pitch by Oliver over the outside. A base hit to the outfield could tie the game. And remember, Sosa has 140 runs batted in. Morgan at third base, Hernandez at second base. 2-0 St. Louis. Way outside, 2-1. Now, this is no time to be fooling around with Sammy Sosa.
Well, I agree. But, I mean, you still feel like it's early in the ball game. You try to get him out because the more people you put on base, John, the more times you turn over the lineup. So, from a pitcher's perspective, you try to get everyone out. And it's still early in the ball game. I don't think they would pitch to him in the 7th or the 8th inning.
The man on deck has pretty good power, Glenn Allen Hill. High and foul off the right field line. And there's one of the differences, too, Joe, between McGwire and Sosa. Sosa will hit a home run to right field, and in fact has hit several. In fact, this week, his last 3 home runs, have gone the other way. 2 in Pittsburgh over the weekend.
But I think the reason for that is that Sosa's not as strong as McGwire. In fact, I don't know who is, but And so the ball's away from him. He can't pull it back and hit it over the center field wall like McGwire can. So he has to go with the pitch if it's out there.
Ooh, curveball got him looking. The big hammer from Darren Oliver. Sosa is 0 for 2. McGwire coming up second. Sammy Sosa is 0 for 2. A foul out, and he was called out on strikes, and a big sweeping curveball from Darren Oliver here in the third inning.
Well, John, I said this about 3 weeks ago on the air that neither McGwire, Sosa, or Griffey get any special treatment, from the umpires. And in fact, McGwire was kicked out of a ball game because he argued over a pitch.
McGwire due up second here in the last of the third inning. Ryan Jordan, Mark McGwire, Ray Langford, the three big sluggers for the Cardinals. Matt McGwire, who was the first to meet Dad when he crossed the plate with number 61.
Let's take a look at this pitch, and we'll see if, like you said, John, it's a pretty good pitch. Looks like a good pitch to me. Big sweeping breaking ball, as you said. We're looking at a little angle there in the outfield, but it looked like a pretty good pitch. It was high enough.
There's ball one to Jordan. Plus, he had not seen one of those yet from Oliver.
Yeah.
Oliver's got a pretty good arm.
He's matching his stuff against Sosa's strength. Good fastball, good breaking ball. But all of it is hard. Most of his pitches are going to be hard. And if you're a hitter, that's what you want.
Mark McGwire on deck. Now 3 ahead of Sosa in the home run race. Tied with Maris. 1 away from the record that some thought might never be broken. And the Babe, when he hit 60 in 27, people didn't make that big a deal out of it because they assumed, he'll hit 65 or 70 next year. Because the Babe, it seemed like there were no bounds to what he could do.
Plus, he was in class all by himself. I mean, no one else was even close to being able to do it year in and year out like he was.
Only his own teammate, Lou Gehrig, who was only 24 that year, had emerged as any kind of competitor for him.
John, if you look back, the thing that has made, these guys great is, Ruth had Gehrig, Maris had Mantle, and Sosa and McGwire have each other. I think they really help push each other to these heights that they've attained.
3-2. McGwire on deck. Babe Ruth started his major league career as a pitcher, and he was one of the best pitchers in the American League as a Boston Red Sox. Mark McGwire went to college as a pitcher. And a curveball got him looking. And now McGwire. The new ball's put in play with the special marking on it. So now he has equaled Maris. The next one, and the record belongs to McGwire, at least for now. Ball 1.
The fans definitely do not want him to take a walk.
2-0. Everybody in the Cubs dugout right there at the railing to get a good close view. Base hit. Gaetti. It was hit so sharply, waved at it, couldn't get it.
Well, he kind of stumbled over that way a little bit, and then the hop was such an in-between hop, he didn't really have a chance. Well, you see the target low and away. It's fastball down, but it's over the middle of the plate. And watch Gaetti. See, it's the hop right there, the skid. It kind of skidded. That's the reason he wasn't able to make the play.
Ray Langford. McGwire at first. And that's a ball.
And, John, if anybody wonders, Mark McGwire does all of his damage with a 34.5-inch, 33-ounce bat. and Sammy Sosa used a 34.5-inch, 32-ounce bat. Interesting story about McGwire's bat. I played for the Oakland A's in 1984 along with Davey Lopes. So when the season was over, they sent all of our bats down to the instructional league, and Mark McGwire was down there. And he picked mine up. He says, too small, threw it away. Picked up Davey Lopes, and he said, this feels perfect. And he's used the Davey Lopes bat ever since that time.
Nice pickup at second. And Morandini throws out Ray Langford. McGwire takes second. We're talking about the bats that they use. There's Sosa's bat, McGwire's, and also the one that Roger Maris used the day he hit number 61.
Well, the interesting thing is that they're all relatively thin handle bats with a medium barrel. They're all pretty similar. Sammy Sosa often uses, a black bat, but they're all very similar.
Well, Sosa said lately he's been using Glenn Allen Hill's bat. And Glenn Allen Hill. Well, that one hits Ron Gant, and the bases are loaded. I beg your pardon. First and second. That was the coach over there at first base, not a base runner. Dave McKay, the coach over there. So, although he was standing in the bag, he was not actually a runner.
Well, Ron Gant really doesn't have any place to go here. Gets him right in the middle of the back. He just kind of turns away. Pitch way off the plate inside.
Glenn Allen Hill says, hey, he's using my bat, but I'm not going to take any credit for anything that he's doing. He says, although I would like to see my bat end up in Cooperstown.
Well, Davey Lopes told McGwire, he says, it didn't work that well for me anyway. I'm glad you can use it. Davey Lopes once hit 27 or 28 home runs in a season.
28, I believe, in 1979. Coaching with the San Diego Padres. 2 on, 2 out. The Cardinals already leading 2-0.
And a guy that I think should be a manager.
Fernando Tatis, a right-handed hitter. Very young. Also from the Dominican Republic. And he made a point of going over to chat with Sammy Sosa before the game during batting practice. 3-0 the count, and Morgan really struggling here suddenly. This guy become a tough out since coming to the Cardinals, by the way. Tatis has hit .289 for St. Louis. 5 home runs in 128 at-bats before today. And he gets a 4-pitch walk. The bases are loaded for Placido Polanco. Phil Regan, the pitching coach, is heading out to the mound. McGwire at third, Gant at second. Tatis goes over to first. And the Cubs bullpen is getting busy. That is Dave Stevens, a right-hander, up in the bullpen. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan on Labor Day 1998, and wherever you are, if you've got some traveling to do later today, we hope you'll drive safely, and we're certainly happy that we're able to spend part of this holiday with you as we look in on Major League Baseball history. McGwire has hit number 61. That's a strike. We understand in a rain delay at Shea Stadium that they've been showing this game on the big screen there. Mets fans, of course, very much involved in what happens to the Cubs because the Cubs lead the wild card race right now. Placido Polanco takes the ball. Polanco came into the game hitting .286 in his 98 Major League at-bats. So Mike Morgan now pitching for survival. He's already down 2-0, and the Cardinals had the bases loaded. So the slider, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, there you can see why a lot of people think that Tatis is going to be, Polanco's going to be a good player because he has a very quick bat, goes to the ball pretty well. And they figure he's going to really improve as, he gets some experience here in the major leagues. Although a lot of the rumors around here have the Cardinals pursuing Barry Larkin when the season is over.
Ball 2. They tried to get him during this season. And Walt Jocketty, the GM of the Cardinals, said that he and the Reds GM, Jim Bowden, just could not get together on an equitable trade. Or at least one that Jocketty could live with. That is just foul. Almost a base hit with a couple of runs scoring, but just barely foul. Mike Winters, the third base umpire, making the call.
Well, he went out to get the slider away, so he comes inside with a fastball. You see him pull it sharply down the line, but it's outside the bag as it passes the bag. Remember, if it goes over any part of the bag, the left-hand corner, any part of it, it's a fair ball.
And it goes to 3-2. By the way, we watch Mark McGwire, one of the former Bash brothers from Oakland, did his 61st. Jose Canseco in Toronto for the Red Hot Blue Jays hit his 41st today, a 3-run shot against Cleveland. Runners go. Gaetti in time. The Cardinals leave him loaded, and the Cubs are still right in this one. 2-0 St. Louis after 3. This ESPN Major League Baseball special is brought to you by Everstart Battery. All the cold cranking power your truck, car, boat, or mower will ever need. Available at Walmart. On a hot, humid day in St. Louis, Mark McGwire has equaled Roger Maris with 61 homers. Dave Campbell is with the Maris family.
Thank you. I'm talking to Kevin, third oldest son, and Kev, I saw McGwire when he was coming into the dugout. He pointed right at his family.
Yeah, it looked like he to us, and that was the way it looked to us. And he thanked us really.
And we apologize for some technical problems with that microphone as Glenn Allen Hill stands in. We get the problems figured out. Perhaps we'll go back for a visit with Kevin Maris. And that was interesting, Joe. Said it was obvious to them that he was acknowledging them.
Well, and
toward them.
I think he has a great appreciation for the accomplishments that Roger Maris attained. I mean, I think he realizes how difficult it was for Roger Maris, far more difficult than it was for him and Sammy Sosa to chase Maris's records. You know, when you're Roger Maris, you're chasing Babe Ruth, who is a Yankee, and your closest pursuer is Mickey Mantle, who is maybe one of the greatest Yankees of all time. You know, people really are not pulling for you.
Polanco and Hill is out number 1.
And, I mean, there was a lot of pressure on Maris. I mean, you know, I'm told that the Yankees really didn't do a lot to help him in those years, that, you know, newspaper people had access to his locker. They could just come in at any time and see him. You know, just a lot of pressure on the guy and a lot of stress. And, you know, the thing about McGwire and Sosa and Griffin, anyone that's chasing the record now, everyone is pulling for them. And that makes a big difference.
Gary Gaetti, the hitter. It was a great interview that they did a story about Julie Isaacson, Big Julie, who was a very close friend of Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle. And he drove Roger Maris to the ballpark the day that he hit number 61. That's a fair ball by Gaetti. Gant gives chase. Gaetti will easily make it into second with a double. But he hit number 61, and then they went out to dinner afterward. And while they were at dinner, a guy came right over to their table. It was Julie Isaacson and his wife, Roger Maris. And the guy said, "Roger, personally, I don't like you that much. but would you sign an autograph for my kid?
Well, I mean, that puts a guy in a tough position.
Well, the way Big Julie told it in the USA Today, Roger just kept eating his steak, and Big Julie popped him right in the nose. So he did his best Sonny Liston. 1 ball and no strikes to Mickey Morandini. Then he went across the street after they had dinner. There was a Catholic church, and he wanted to go to the midnight mass. So they went over, went into the church. The priest who was conducting the mass found out Maris was there and announced it to everybody in the church that Maris was there. At which point, Maris, will even be alone with his prayers for a moment, got up and left.
Well, I think the Maris family is hoping that all the attention that's being brought to their father and showing how nice a person he really was and the character that he had will help, maybe hopefully get him maybe into the Hall of Fame.
That's out number 2. Morandini is gone. Well, we talked about Maris and the obstacles and the pressures that he felt before he died. Here's what he said.
After the ball game, it made it difficult because I sat there until the last writer filtered in and went out. There was no organized period of a half hour, an hour, hour and a half. Hell, some days I was there 3-4 hours after a ball game, just sitting there with interviews, and it did get grueling. That really hurt.
That's the point I'm talking about. The Yankees didn't help him by structuring as the Cardinals have done. Mark McGwire has a time for his press conference. It lasts a certain length of time, then he leaves. But I'm told that, as Roger just said, that he sat in the clubhouse for 2 and 3 hours after the game and answered every question until it was over. And the Maris family is saying, look, they just wish their dad could have had the same kind of...
That's a nice catch by Brian Jordan, who's got great speed and great range out there. Service robbed of a hit. The Cubs robbed of a run. 2-0, St. Louis. Cardinals 2, Cubs 0. John Miller and Joe Morgan with you from St. Louis. Mark McGwire in the first inning wasted little time in getting a share of Major League history as he homered in his first at-bat before the huge crowd. I mean, just electrified the sellout crowd here. Today's Skyview coverage from the Bud 1 airship, brought to you by Brew Refresh Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. We're glad to have them with us here near the shores of the great Mississippi. And the great McGwire has hit 1 today. Roger Maris, it was announced by then Commissioner Ford Frick, who was an old friend of the Babes, that if he did not hit 60 or 61 in 154 games, which was the length of the schedule in Roots Day, he would not be considered to have a part of or have broken the Babes record. Since then, that so-called asterisk was removed from the official baseball record book by then Commissioner Fay Vincent, because after all, the record is most home runs in a season. As Darren Oliver is at bat, there's the current commissioner, Bud Selig, in attendance today, as well he should be, which conspicuously 24 years ago, then Commissioner Bowie Kuhn was not in attendance the day that Hank Aaron passed the Babes all-time career home run record.
And that always bothered Hank, too.
24 years later, it bothers me.
Yeah, I agree with you. It bothered me at the time, and it still does.
And down on strikes is Darren Oliver.
Because no matter what we ever say, whatever people think, the players are still the game. The players are the game, no one else. And I mean, you come to see the players.
And you saw the commissioner, Bud Selig, down there, and close by him in the commissioner's box, the legendary Stan Musial. There's Stan leaning around the railing, talking with Commissioner Selig. Stan the man. They just unveiled a new statue of Stan Musial outside Busch Stadium this weekend. And not only a great player, Joe, but A great guy. And talk about down to earth. He was at the microphone before the big crowd before the game. They unveiled the statue and all that sort of thing. He said a few words, and then he broke out his harmonica and let everybody in singing take me out to the ball game.
But his greatest accomplishment is the Wabash Cannonball. You ought to hear him play that.
Well, that's probably just for you fellow immortals up there at Cooperstown.
Yeah, he plays it every year at Cooperstown. And we look forward to hearing him play it.
Stan Musial.
How did he get the nickname The Man? I'm going to ask you. You're a historian.
I don't even pretend to know all those inside things of what goes on up there in Cooperstown when you immortals meet there in baseball's Olympus.
Well, it's ironic that they're playing the Cubs because a Cub fan gave him that nickname.
A Cub fan?
Yeah, after he'd beaten up on the Cubs for 3 games, and he came out and he said, "There's the man." And from then on, he was known as Stan the Man. There's Lou Brock, another fellow Hall of Famer, along with Stan Musial.
Cubs fans still remember Lou Brock for Ernie Broglio. The Cubs traded Lou Brock to the Cardinals, and every Cub fan will tell you that's the worst trade in Cubs history.
Here you go, John. You might get a ball. No.
I got it.
Bob Gibson was here last time. Red Schoendienst is here. I mean, the Cardinal history, I mean, this is, one of the real storied franchises in the history of Major League Baseball. So they have a lot of great Hall of Famers that are always around, and it's one of the reasons this is such a great baseball town.
It's a walk for Eli Marrero, who homered his last time. Let's go back now to Dave Campbell.
With Kevin Maris, it looked like when McGwire hit the home run, crossed the plate, shook hands, and then he pointed right at the box to the Maris family.
Yeah, acknowledged it, and he tapped his heart and looked like he's saying Dad was in his heart, and that shows a lot of respect for the family, what Dad did. And Mark's a heck of a guy.
Mark said that he's a spiritual guy, and he looks forward to talking to your dad someday in heaven. That ought to be quite a conversation.
Hey, it can't get any better than that one right there.
Yeah, thanks for the visit.
Thank you.
Okay, John.
Kevin Maris said you can see a lot of his dad there. He got the same kind of a haircut that Roger Maris fashioned the year he won, or he hit the 61 home runs.
And he does that, in honor of his father.
Delano DeShields in the right field, Sammy Sosa. And that is out number 2.
And also, the Maris family has said that, they didn't want anyone to break the record, and that's personal. And they said, but they could not have come up with a better script if it was going to be broken than to have 2 guys like McGwire and Sosa chasing it. 2 really good guys who really care about people and who really do a lot, for other people.
Here is Brian Jordan. If he can reach base, Mark McGwire and get another shot to bat here. McGuire's had 2 at-bats in the first 3 innings. They've had a lot of base runners in this game, which will give McGwire a chance to have maybe an extra plate appearance or 2. Jordan has lined to left and has been called out on strikes. The Cubs bullpen is busy again. We're in the 4th inning. The Cardinals are leading 2-0. And the count is 0-2. Rodney Myers, a right-hander, is up in the Cubs bullpen here in the 4th inning. 2 down. McGwire on deck. Middle, but behind second was Morandini. The long throw, and the dirt pulled out by Grace. And that will keep McGwire from coming up with 2 men on. Big play by Grace. 2-0 Cardinals after 4. The Cardinals lead the Cubs as we go to the top of the 5th inning here in St. Louis. Coming up, a new time for Monday Night Football on ABC Sports this year, 8 Eastern. Join Al Michaels, Dan Deerdorf, and Boomer Esiason as Drew Bledsoe and the Patriots take on John Elway and the world champion Denver Broncos. That's tonight, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC. Mike Morgan against Darren Oliver. Quickly, the count goes to 0-2. Morgan whacked a double over the head of Ray Langford in the 3rd inning. He's 1 for 1. Leadoff man Lance Johnson on deck.
John, I heard the call of, Jack Buck's call of McGwire's 60th home run the other day. And at the end of the call, he said, "Wake up, babe, you got company."
Jack Buck. You mentioned all of those great former Cardinals, and there's another Cardinal Hall of Famer.
And Jack, of course, last time we were here, they dedicated a statue outside,
just outside the front door.
Yeah, right outside the front, in his familiar pose of broadcasting with his one finger in the ear. He's kind of changed a little bit there, John. He's gone to the headset.
That's a foul out of play. Jack Buck.
But you know what? I heard Marty Brenneman, who was working the radio for the Cincinnati Reds, call too, and it was great. I think both of them did a fantastic job with that, as you did with number 61. So you guys have a special place in history now. You play-by-play guys.
With Marty Brenneman and Jack Buck, that's two of my favorites right there.
Mine too.
Sammy Sosa would be due up 5th in this inning. We got to get a couple of men on base to get Sosa up there. Lance Johnson will come up now. It is 2-0. St. Louis is leading. They're still in a rain delay, meanwhile, at Shea Stadium, where the Mets had a 4-0 lead over Atlanta through 3 innings. The Mets will be anxious to see that rain go away, because that is not yet an official game. If they win it, they would have taken 3 out of 4 from Atlanta. That's supposed to be one of the things that was working against them. They had 7 games left with Atlanta, but they have more than held their own with the Braves this weekend. Chance to win the series. That's a ball. 3-0. And they maybe get a little break today. Denny Nagel unable to go.
Well, there are a lot of, teams that are coming to the forefront in the National League. But I still think that you're going to have to go through Atlanta to get to the World Series.
3-1 the count. Three and 2 now. Jose Hernandez on deck. Tony La Russa, Mark McGwire's manager when he broke into the big leagues. And his manager when McGwire makes history.
This has been a bittersweet season for Tony. I talked to him last week, and he said, it's bittersweet. It's great that McGwire is chasing a record, and some of the other individuals, Langford, Jordan, are having great individual seasons. But he's very, very disappointed, in the team, because this is the second year in a row that they've been picked to do well, and they've not, had good seasons. So I think that, the Cardinals are going to have to bounce back next year as a team.
Mark McGwire hit number 61 in the first.
And you can see that the pitch was supposed to be down and away, but it was a fastball in the middle of the plate. And when you get the ball in the middle of the plate and down, most of the time you're not going to get it back if he's at the plate. But the thing I've always said that separates him from the other home run hitters is that he can hit a perfect pitch out of the ballpark. He does not have to hit mistakes to hit home runs. Most of the other sluggers will feast on the pitcher's mistakes, but he can hit any pitch out of the ballpark.
McGwire will be leading off for the Cardinals in the last half of this inning. He has a homer and a single so far today. The single, something that has occurred less often for McGwire than his home runs. He's got 61 homers, as we all know, and he has 53 singles. That's pretty unusual.
Well, he says he doesn't get paid to hit singles, John.
I guess not.
Hey, he said, singles hitters drive Fords, home run hitters drive Cadillacs.
Who said that?
That's what they told me when I first came into the big leagues, but it's never worked that way.
Well, Ralph Kiner said that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, Nellie Fox passed it along to me.
So you developed that home run stroke?
No, I just didn't listen to him. Hey, Nellie Fox was driving a Cadillac anyway.
One out, Johnson at first. Jose Hernandez has got some pop. And this Cubs team has hit 184 home runs this year. They've been one of the great Cubs power teams, led by Sosa, obviously, they've ever had. But the Cardinals, obviously, with McGwire match up pretty well. The Cardinals have hit 190 home runs. Not many National League teams can match up with the Cubs' power. Sammy Sosa got 58, holding his bat in the dugout. He's ready to go. But they need to get somebody else on base here. Mark Grace on deck. Darren Oliver kept them off the board up till now. 1 ball, 1 strike. But 14 of McGwire's last 24 hits have been home runs.
Well, that one stretch there in Florida, he hit 4 out of 4 home runs in 5 at bats.
And Sosa hit a homer earlier each one of those days, and both nights McGwire answered with 2 home runs. That's a foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Jose Hernandez. You know, we're talking about Roger Maris, and we keep talking about the most home runs ever hit in the minor leagues. There was once a guy named Joe Bauman, who still lives in Roswell, New Mexico. 1954, Joe Bauman hit 72 home runs for the Roswell Rockets in a Class C league, the Longhorn League. And in 1955, a guy by the name of Bob Lennon hit 64 home runs. And he played in the same league and was one day asked for some advice about pulling the ball with power by a guy playing in that league named Roger Maris. So Maris's path crossed that of a guy who hit 64 home runs one year and actually got a little bit of advice from that big minor league home run hitter. A guy named Joe Hauser, playing for Baltimore in the International League in 1930, hit 63 homers. That's a ball down and in, almost hit him in the foot. Well, Dick Stewart, remember Dick Stewart?
Yeah. Dr. Strangeglove.
Yeah. 1956, playing for Lincoln, hit 66 home runs. Of course, he went on to hit more than 200 big league homers. Tony Lazzari, who was Ruth's teammate in 1927 when he hit 60, and a great player in his own right. That was down the left field line. Gant into the corner, and it's foul. Lazzari hit 60 for Salt Lake City in the Pacific Coast League in 1925. Tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, an ESPN Classic Sports original documentary, Roger Maris, Reluctant Hero. Through interviews, rare footage, and archival interviews with Maris himself, this one will reveal the man behind one of the most famous records in sports, Roger Maris, Reluctant Hero, tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. If you can't be there to see it, I suggest setting your VCR for it. Now, Hernandez chased one there that might have hit the dirt if he hadn't hit in. 2-2 the count.
John, it's 60-plus home runs is a great number, even if you're playing in Little League or wherever you're playing. But I only watch big league records. I only count big league records. But that's a great accomplishment.
That's because you're in the Hall of Fame.
No. I just only count big league records. But I think those are great accomplishments.
Caught at short by Polanco. And Johnson had to hold at first base. Now, had he short-hopped that ball, it surely would have started an inning-ending double play. But he caught it, and that brings up Grace. If Grace can get on base, Sammy Sosa will get a shot at it here. 2-0. The Cardinals are leading the Cubs in the top of the 5th inning. Grace has flied to left and grounded to first. There's Sammy Sosa on deck, hoping to bat here in the 5th inning. Hot, muggy day in St. Louis, although they say relief is on its way. By tonight, it will be significantly cooler. The low will be 58 tonight, they say.
He just brought up the point. They need to get the Cubs out here in the top of the 5th to make this an official ball game.
It's not official yet.
So McGwire's home run becomes official with one more Cub out.
There goes Johnson again, picked off. McGwire throws to second. Polanco tags him out.
Now he's in the record book.
It's official. And McGwire is coming up. McGwire hit number 61 in the first inning. The Cardinals lead 2-0 as we go to the last of the fifth. And when he came out of the dugout, the ovation began, and everyone is standing here at Busch Stadium as McGwire stands in at the plate.
I think we should stand too, John. Since we couldn't salute him when he was running around the bases. Because we're not supposed to show favoritism, are we?
I'm trying to maintain the integrity
of the game.
Of the booth.
Right, of the booth, right.
High in the air, shadow center. Morandini out, Johnson in. And McGwire is gone on one pitch.
John, Bob McGwire's changed a little bit his approach to hitting. And what you'll see here, he takes his top hand off so that he can get better extension. Now watch this. His hand comes off. That's for extension. He didn't hit like that for, the first few years in the major leagues. But this helps him to get extension. And it doesn't cut off the swing, because if you keep your top hand on, your top hand will eventually roll over. And I think Sosa's saying, hey, you hit the home run. Now we have to try to win the ball game.
Sosa will be due up second in the sixth inning. As Ray Langford comes up now, McGwire back in the dugout. 2 for 3 for the day. McGwire, who is very quick to remember people who have given him help along the way, and long before he ever got here, before he ever signed a professional contract, he was given some hitting instruction by Ron Vaughn, who was a coach at USC when McGwire got there. Ron Vaughn was one of the early guys to see that McGwire maybe had a better future as a hitter than as a pitcher. And McGwire went up after his sophomore year to play in the Alaskan Summer League. And their team needed a big slugging first baseman. And Ron Vaughn pointed out to the manager of the team, said, hey, you've already got one. It's Mark McGwire. Give him a shot. McGwire played first base instead of pitching up there. And he had a real big season. And was able to convince his manager, Rod Dato, at USC to get him in there as a hitter, which he did. And then he hit 32 home runs to lead intercollegiate baseball in his junior year, and ended up signing a contract with the Oakland Athletics as a hitter. And McGwire says he wasn't much of a pitcher. He said he had just a mediocre fastball and a mediocre slider. Although Rod Dato says he had much better stuff than that. But McGwire, as you see him as a pitcher back in his days at SC in the early 80s, even after he first signed, would work out all winter long with Ron Vaughn back in Southern California. Ron got no money for it, no compensation. He's now scouting for Oakland. And Ron Vaughn was stunned when he started hearing that Mark McGwire in his interviews this year kept mentioning Ron Vaughn as a guy that taught him everything he really needed to know to be a hitter. McGwire also gives Doug Rader, who became a hitting instructor in Oakland, a great deal of credit for his help. But Ron Vaughn, who was one of those guys, Joe, and there were thousands of them around the country, or maybe not enough of them, who were out there without fame, without fortune, but teaching the game of baseball to young people. Taking those who are willing to work, and McGwire was, and help them polish their game. McGwire was willing to put in the time, and Ron Vaughn was there for him.
And he also mentioned that when he was with Oakland, he learned a lot about hitting from, Bob Watson, who was a hitting instructor there. And as I mentioned, lately he's adapted some of Charlie Lau's, hitting philosophy, and that is the right top hand coming off the bat. A lot of people always felt that when your top hand came off the bat, you would only hit singles, but that's not true, because you're still making contact with both hands, but you're getting the extension. And extension is the key to hitting a lot of home runs. Extension is the key to driving the ball.
Langford at first, one out. Gant the hitter. Last Sunday when we were here, and McGwire hit that spectacular home run to beat Atlanta. Ron Vaughn and his wife in Southern California had the game on television. There goes Langford. Service throws in the dirt. And Langford will hold at second base as Morandini was able to knock it down.
Well, Service didn't get much on that throw at all, because I actually thought he had a shot at Gant, but he did not get anything on the throw. Langford, I'm sorry, he didn't get anything on the throw.
Langford's got his second steal of the year, of the game, and his 21st of the year. Thought about going.
No, it was too close. I think Morandini was trying to decoy him as to he didn't know where the ball was.
But when McGwire hit that big home run to beat Atlanta last week on Sunday Night Baseball, his 55th homer of the year, Ron's wife ran in from the other room and says, Marky has just done it again. And Ron said he was excited for McGwire, but also he said at that moment, he says they were as proud of McGwire as if he was a member of their family. And he said that was satisfaction enough for him for the time he put in with McGwire. That's the reason he did it. Thought McGwire had a chance to do something with it. 2-2 the count. And that's, I know, in your own book, you talked about that as a responsibility of the older generation of players. Continue that tradition of passing along that knowledge to the younger players.
I think that's something that has slacked off in the last few years, and I think it needs to be returned to the forefront for baseball and for players who've learned a lot from other people, just to pass that knowledge along.
You know, Rick Sutcliffe is a guy now doing television for San Diego, but he still reserves a couple of months during the season where he goes down and works with Padres pitchers in the rookie leagues and in spring training. And I asked him why, and he said, because I feel it's important for me to give something back to the game. Maybe he read your book, Joe.
Well, no, I just think that's a great attitude to have, because this is a great game.
Here comes Jim Riggleman out now. 2 men on, consecutive walks here by Mike Morgan. The bullpen is busy. And Morgan, remember, making only his 3rd start since coming back from the disabled list. Morgan's only allowed 2 runs up till now. We are, of course, in St. Louis. Where else would we be? There's the famed Gateway Arch along the shores of the Mississippi, and Busch Stadium in the background. And today's Skyview coverage is coming from Bud One Airship, brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Here's Bud One. Fernando Tatis up now. Morgan is staying in there. It hasn't been elegant so far. He's given up a booming home run to McGwire. Another homer to Marrero. Had base runners in every inning. But so far, Joe, he's kept them in the game.
Well, that's what Mike Morgan does. He's a crafty veteran that keeps his ball club in the game. As he mentioned, he hasn't pitched as well as he would like, but the Cubs have won his 2 previous starts because he keeps them in the ball game.
He has walked 6 in 4 1/3 innings and given up 2 homers, but only 2 runs on the board. Slider misses. 2-0. Rodney Myers, a right-hander, warming up in the Chicago bullpen. Myers is ready if needed. Shouldn't take too long to get loose on a day like today. Jim Riggleman pensive in the dugout. Cubs leading the wild card race. The pitch disappeared up there. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Placido Polanco is on deck. Toronto is leading Cleveland today, by the way, 14-1 now at the end of 7. On their way to their 11th consecutive victory. And they'll be only 4.5 back of the Red Sox, who play tonight at Fenway against the Yanks. So down to first base with Grace covering, but safely back is Gant. Two and 2 the count. To Tatis. Peter Gammons wrote in his column yesterday in the Boston Globe that McGwire and Sosa perhaps have taken some of the heat off the Red Sox, who had started to slide in the pennant race, which usually puts a lot of heat on them because they start hearing about that history about this time every year when they have a lead. 3-2 the count now. Well, both of these runners are fast, Joe. I'm sending them.
Well, I'm not so sure Tony will in this situation because, you know, Tatis will strike out a lot.
I'm sending them.
Okay. I'm not going to send them yet.
Well, they're holding on. Oh, they never listen to me.
Well,
3-2.
Yeah, they do sometimes. That's why you still have your house.
We didn't have a bet on that. I didn't bet my house just now, did I?
No, you didn't. No.
3-2 the count.
So you look at Tony. Tony's a tricky guy. You never know now.
Well, plus, if let's say the guy struck out and they stole, then they could walk Polanco to go after the pitcher. So the pitcher's hitting 8. So this should be 2. Here's 1. Morandini to first. 2. Double play. They should have sent him. 6th inning, Grace, and then Sammy Sosa coming up. There's the Mississippi, the Gateway Arch. St. Louis, the gateway to the West, one of America's historic cities, part of the opening up of the West, and started here. John Miller and Joe Morgan. Today, history has been made. Mark McGwire, the second major leaguer to reach 61 homers, joining Roger Maris. And now he's 1 home run away from reaching the top of Everest, where nobody has ever gone before. 61 and counting. But also being chased himself by Sammy Sosa, who is on deck. Here in the 6th inning as Mark Grace takes ball 1 from Darren Oliver. And that's the other part of it. When Maris hit number 61, he had the record, and then the season was over. McGwire, after today, has another 19 games left to play. So breaking Maris's record will only be the record until the next one. And also, he has been the first to hit 61 since Maris, but he may not even end up leading the league in home runs. And Sammy Sosa might overtake him.
Well, I think that's what has really helped both of them. They push each other. They're not competing against each other, they say, but at least they're pushing each other.
3-1 the count to Grace. Well, Oliver needs to make a pitch here. He can't walk Grace in front of Sammy Sosa. Grace, though, often does walk. Very selective up there. Strike 2 with fastball. He has walked nearly twice as often as he struck out. High, lazy fly, left field, Gant. And there is 1 away.
John, I'm going to show you a little something about these guys' swing. They both get in almost a perfect power position. Look at that. An impact with McGwire. Now look at Sosa. The difference is Sosa on the right has his left leg straight. That means that he is in a perfect power position. McGwire breaks his left knee a little bit, which tells you that he uses his upper body a little bit more because he's stronger. And that's why McGwire really has a little bit of an edge, because he's a little stronger than Sosa, but they're almost in perfect power positions when they attack the baseball.
Well, here's Sammy. He's found the first and struck out looking. Ball 1. This is the first time that he's batted with nobody on base. Again, he got a very warm response from the St. Louis crowd upon arriving at the plate. We saw Big Mac at number 61. They want to see Sosa go deep too.
Yeah, that's what they came to see.
Mark's the man. That's what Sosa keeps saying.
No, Stan's the man. Change-up. So he's thrown him last time up. He threw him a curveball to strike him out that he had not seen in his previous at bat. This time he throws him a changeup, something that he has not seen the entire ball game.
Oliver, who until recently was a teammate of Juan Gonzalez, the great Texas Rangers slugger. Sosa fouled on the right field line. Sosa and Gonzalez both were signed by Omar Minaya, who is now the assistant general manager of the New York Mets. They were both acquired at nearly the same time. Gonzalez from the Vega Baja section of Puerto Rico. Sosa from the Dominican. And that's a ball. Even the daylight here, Joe, is seeing flash bulbs going off from thousands of cameras with each pitch, both to Sosa and McGwire. think they're going to help that much. 3-2 the count. He struck him out. Foul tip into the glove of Marrero.
And that pitch was a little bit out of the strike zone. High fastball away. And Sosa went after it. Well, let's take a look at how he started him off. Fastball down, then fastball over the outside corner. A breaking ball away, a changeup, I'm sorry. And then he gets a fastball away, fouls it out of the play. High fastball and another high fastball, and he chases it.
Run out on the hill. Delino to Shields. Nice play. And just like that, the Cubs are gone in order. First time all day. Last of the 6. 2-0 St. Louis. Cards 2, Cubs nothing. Last of the 6th inning from St. Louis. Yeah, this guy's got tickets to the next 3 games. And these tickets are awfully exclusive right now. Some people have other ways of viewing the action. Be careful up there, will you?
Yeah, Barb Euchre would be proud of that seat.
Mark McGwire. He didn't have the big build-up today to number 61. He hit it the first time he batted. Placido Polanco takes ball 1 from Mike Morgan. 2-0. St. Louis is leading. Polanco is grounded to short and grounded to third. Right over the outside for a strike. Darren Oliver, the pitcher, is on deck, and then Eli Marrero. The last third of the Cardinals batting order here. McGwire would be due up 6th in the inning. Into right center, Sammy Sosa. And that is out number 1. Wednesday night baseball, the doubleheader at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. We'll have the Cardinals and the Reds. We'll follow Big Mac into Cincinnati, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. And then on ESPN 2, at the same time, the Yankees and the Red Sox. And then that will be the first half of the Wednesday night baseball doubleheader. We're watching the Cardinals and the Cubs, the longtime rivals. The Yankees and Red Sox are beginning a series tonight at Fenway Park. Game 3 of that series will be on ESPN 2. That's a foul off to the right. 0-2. The Giants, who are the 3rd club in the National League wild card chase with the Cubs and the Mets, will be seen in the second half of our Wednesday night doubleheader from San Diego, 10:30 Eastern. And Morgan gets Oliver for out number 2. 3 strikeouts for Morgan. He has not been able to get through an inning without some men reaching base yet. He has given up 3 hits and 6 walks, and he has hit a batter. So they put 10 men on base in the first 5 innings. But they managed to get only 2 runs out of all of that.
Keeping score.
And you got to keep scoring a day like today.
Yeah, you do.
You're here to be part of history. You've got to keep scoring. That's one of the best souvenirs you could have of a day like this. Eli Marrero. Ball 1. He has homered and walked. 2-0 St. Louis, last of the 6th. And that's a ball, 2 balls and no strikes. Sammy Sosa 0 for 3 today. Mark McGwire 2 for 3, and his first hit was a home run. Just missing on the outside. 3 balls and a strike. When Roger Maris hit the 61 homers, Mickey Mantle finished with 54. Teammates who collaborated for more homers than any other teammates in history. Strike 2 on the outside. But then, of course, the Yankees, who won 109 games that season, went on to win the World Series in 5 games from Cincinnati. Before you were there, Joe.
Yes.
Otherwise, I wouldn't mention it.
Right.
That was the Cincinnati Ball Club of Frank Robinson and Veda Pinson. pretty good club, but the Yankees just demolished him. And that's also one of the big differences between what McGwire's doing and what Maris did. Maris did it in the heat of a pennant race, and they were pressed by the Tigers much of the way. Deep into left center, Johnson makes the catch. He covers a lot of ground out there. McGwire will have to wait an inning. We go to the 7th, 2-0 St. Louis. In his 143rd game, Mark McGwire has hit his 61st homer. Back in 1961, Roger Maris was chasing the Babe, and the decree was he would have to do it in the first 154 games because Ruth's schedule consisted of only 154 games when he hit 60, and the 154th game fell on a night when the Yankees were playing in Baltimore, and Maris went into that game with 58 home runs. And when Gary Gaetti's at bat is finished, we'll take you back to that night at Memorial Stadium. Meanwhile, Gaetti blasts one deep, and that one is gone. A home run. Gary Gaetti gets a big ovation from many Cardinals fans because he did that very thing so many times as a Cardinal. He acknowledges the crowd. His 17th homer this year, and his 4th as a Cub. And now here is Mickey Morandini. 2-1 St. Louis. Morandini grounded out twice. That's the worrisome part for the Cardinals here. They've had chances to break this game open and have not done it. It comes to right in the game, and that's a solid single to right for Morandini. Back on September the 20th, 1961 in Baltimore against Milt Pappas, Maris was sitting on 58 home runs.
I imagine after all this is over, somebody may write a story or two about the month-long, day in, day out, excruciating pressure. There's one. It is going. It is going. It is going. Number 59.
And you're going to hear the ovation in Baltimore that night. Although, as was the case all the way down the stretch, the big crowds were not there for Maris. It did not seem to captivate the country anywhere near as much as what McGwire and Sosa have been doing. In Baltimore that night, they had just a little over 20,000 people. Maris had number 59. Later in that game, he would hit a ball to the warning track in right center, but that was as close as he would get to number 60 in those first 154 games. And that, of course, was the great, legendary Hall of Fame broadcaster Mel Allen, then the voice of the Yankees, as he described number 59 for Roger Maris. And it was interesting, Joe, talking about the excruciating pressure that Maris was under.
Right. I think that's the difference between Sosa, McGwire, and Maris. That's a big difference.
There's a bunt by Scott Service. Nicely done. McGwire. Wow, nice play by Big Mac. With DeShields covering, and Morandini has been moved to second base.
McGwire did win a Gold Glove a few years ago. And this is a tough play because the ball backs up and stops. Now McGwire has to get rid of it. And he makes a nice play. Throws it on the inside so that he doesn't hit the runner. And DeShields can make the play.
Big Mac. I think a lot of fans kind of gasped when they saw McGwire fall over after making that throw. As if to say, it's fine to make a good play. Don't hurt yourself. Not now. Matt Mieske will come up and pinch hit from Mike Morgan. The Cardinal bullpen is very busy right now. The right-handed Mike Busby, the left-handed, number 28, Lance Painter. So the possible tying run is in scoring position here. Jim Riggleman playing very conservatively here, trying to get the tying run home in the 7th inning. And La Russa is heading out. He's going to bring in, actually going to bring in his left-hander here, Lance Painter. with the right-hander batting Mieske up there. 2-1 St. Louis. We'll be back. Cardinals lead 2-1. Top of the 7th. Runner at second, and left-hander Lance Painter has come on to face Matt Mieske, the right-handed batting pinch hitter. We showed you Maris's 59th homer in that 154th game. Finally, October the 1st, 1961 at Yankee Stadium. In the 4th inning against the Boston Red Sox, Tracy Stallard on the mound.
Fastball hit deep to right. This could be it. Way back there. Oh, count it. 1-9. And
Maris had to be pushed out of the dugout by some of his teammates like Bill Skowron, among others, because the fans just wouldn't stop until he came out and took a bow. That was not commonplace at that time. Finally, they pushed him out of the dugout, made him doff his cap to acknowledge the crowd. But it wasn't necessarily a happy occasion for Maris, perhaps a relief that it was at long last over.
Well, I think it's a relief for McGwire to at least get to 61 as well, but not nearly the same pressure or stress that Maris was under.
You know, the crowd was that day for him to hit the historic 61st, 23,154. And here are the Cardinals, not even in a pennant race, and all sold out for the rest of the year. The Cardinals are going to draw about 3.2 million. Here at home in 1998 with a bad ball club. Mieske the hitter. Starting and then stopping Morandini. He'll remain at second base. 2-0 the count with the left-handed batting Lance Johnson on deck. 23,000 plus at Yankee Stadium when he hit number 61, and most of them, they say, were out in right field. They all wanted to catch that ball. It was Phil Rizzuto who had the play-by-play description of Maris's 61st. I read an interview with Scooter about the call, and they asked him if he had given it some thought in advance what he was going to say if he was on when Maris hit the homer. And Rizzuto, in typical Rizzuto fashion, said, "No, I wish I had thought about it for a while." He said, "Maybe I would have come up with something better than holy cow." Come on, Scooter. Holy cow is perfect. Two on, one out. And now the left-handed batting Lance Johnson will bat. Bob Lee and Robin Roberts will have Sports Center for you right after the ball game. Stay tuned for that. Still raining in New York, by the way, where the Mets have a 4-0 lead over Atlanta after 3 innings. Here the Cardinals 2, the Cubs 1, and McGwire with number 61. Sosa still at 58. But the Cubs now threatening to turn this game around. Lance Johnson is lined to left, flying to shallow center, and walked. Busby still up in the Cardinals bullpen, the right-hander. Pretty impressive performance by Darren Oliver until here in the 7th, Joe. And I wonder if he just started to wilt in the heat.
Well, it's very warm here, and so it doesn't surprise you. You lose, you know, in Major League Baseball, you lose a half a foot off that fastball, and all of a sudden the hitters can start to catch up with it.
Now the strike on the outside. Now it is 1-2. Gary Gaetti started the inning with a home run against his former team. Gaetti, who has hit better than 370 in the 18 games he's played since going to the Cubs. The curve is down and away, blocked by Marrero. The shortstop, Polanco, had actually broken into the bag as the pitch was being thrown that time. I mentioned the Cubs in the wild card race. They have a 1-game advantage over the Mets, 3 over the Giants. The Giants play later tonight in San Diego. The Mets, as we say, leading Atlanta, but in a rain delay. It's become a rather lengthy rain delay at Shea Stadium. Piazza has really been a force in the stretch run for the Mets, just as they hoped he would be. Curveball bounced foul. The runners are Morandini over at second base, and Mieske is at first base.
John, the only way this script could be better for baseball, this year is if both McGwire and Sosa were going to end up in the playoffs. And that's not going to happen because the Cardinals definitely will not be in the playoffs.
Langford, and that is out number 2. Runners had to hold, and the dangerous Jose Hernandez comes up now. The Cubs today have had 8 at-bats as a team with a runner in scoring position, or runners. That means a runner at second or third or both. And they've not had a hit yet. 0 for 8. Here comes Dave Duncan, the pitching coach. Hernandez, a dangerous right-handed hitter with 21 homers. And they're going to bring in the right-hander Busby to face him. 2 men on, 2 men out of the 7th inning. The Cardinals clinging to a 1-run lead. We'll be right back. In St. Louis, 2-1, the Cardinals leading in the top of the 7th over the Cubs. Now it's a new time for Monday Night Football on ABC Sports this season, 8 o'clock Eastern. Join Al Michaels, Stan Deerdorf, and Boomer Esiason for a big ball game tonight. Drew Bledsoe and the Patriots, John Elway and the world champion Broncos. Then next Sunday night, we'll take you to New England for ESPN Sunday Night Football. The Colts, Peyton Manning and Marshall Faulk take on Bledsoe and the Patriots at 8:15 Eastern Time. Mike Patrick, Joe Theismann, and Paul McGwire next Sunday on ESPN. ABC and ESPN, the exclusive home of the NFL in prime time. Here's Mike Busby now. 2 on, 2 out in the 7th inning. Big moment of the game now. A tough right-handed hitter. Jose Hernandez coming up against Busby. The runners, Morandini, the possible tying run at second. Mieske, the possible go-ahead run at first. Both ready to run in anything here with 2 down. Comes pinch hit for Mike Morgan, their starting pitcher. And their bullpen is busy right now. That's Hernandez. 1 for 3. Stands in. 2-1 St. Louis. Over the outside corner for a called strike. Not only a huge crowd of baseball fans here today, but a huge media turnout. Somewhere in the vicinity of 700 members of the media here to cover this one, including a reporter and or columnist from every major league city except for Montreal. One strike to count to Hernandez. In the air to right field, Jordan has plenty of room for this one, and that retires the side. Grace and Sosa will come back in the next inning, and Mark McGwire, who hit number 61 in the first inning, is coming up third in the last of the 7th. 1 away from a new major league record. This ESPN Major League Baseball special is brought to you by Domino's, delivering 1 million smiles a day. And that's the view from high above Busch Stadium. The aerial view of Busch Stadium is from the Bud 1 airship, brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Glad to have them with us. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Mark McGwire. We don't know how many more at-bats he's going to get. Perhaps his final plate appearance will come here in the 7th. He is 1 away from going where no major leaguer has gone before. He has equaled Maris. Nobody has ever gone as far as 62 home runs. Strike 1-2 to Lino DeShields. Brian Jordan on deck. McGwire third in the inning against the new Cubs pitcher, Matt Karchner, has come on to take over for Mike Morgan. 1-1 the count. Karchner formerly with the Chicago White Sox. He had been the closer there. And he comes in here, perhaps into the onrushing tide of history, Joe. Karchner has given up a home run to McGwire this year. And it was a dramatic home run at Wrigley Field back on August the 19th. McGwire had one of those incredible days. This club was trailing in the 8th inning, and McGwire homered to tie the game at Wrigley against Karchner. Then, with the score still tied in the 10th, McGwire homered against Mulholland, and that was the game winner. So his club is not in a pennant race, but McGwire has hit some big home runs that have impacted on the pennant race nonetheless, including last Sunday right here on ESPN, Sunday Night Baseball, when he just blasted that spectacular home run that propelled them to a win over Atlanta. That's deep into right field. Way back there. Sosa, this one, gone! A home run for Delino DeShields.
I think everyone's thinking long ball today. Watch him. He turns on this. He's really trying to drive it, and he does. He hits it over the right field wall for a home run.
Now Brian Jordan, Gaetti. Jordan gone on one pitch, and now here comes McGwire. One away from history. Everybody in the ballpark standing. Ball one. Number 61 came in the first inning. Scorched it down the left field line. He has singled and flied out since. Coming back, service, but no play. It's in amongst the spectators. And a scramble for that one as well. Should have brought your net, Joe. .62. Never been done in the big leagues. Just missing. 2-1. Cubs bullpen is very busy. The end of the bat to center, and Johnson just does make a shoestring catch. So now we don't know if he'll get up to the plate again. Ordinarily, Cardinals fans would just assume that he didn't. Well, because that would mean that they would win.
Well, a lot of people are starting to leave, John.
2 down in the 7th inning, and that will bring up Ray Langford.
Let's take a look and see how close he comes to the target. Target down and away. And he hits the target. Good pitch. A little breaking ball, and that's why McGwire got it off the end of the bat.
There was one game this year where McGwire hit 3 ground balls on the infield. It's the only time it's happened all year. I mean, whatever he hits, home run otherwise, he gets the ball in the air.
Well, he has such a he used to have a real big uppercut. Now he just has a slight uppercut, and that's one of the reasons he's been more consistent the last 3 years as far as hitting home runs and batting average. Because remember now, years ago he hit 200. He was struggling because he was swinging had a lot of fly balls and pop-ups. Plus, it was much easier to pitch to him. I think one of the things Tony La Russa said is that he has seen this guy mature. When he first came up, he'd hit home runs, and they'd get him out, and he didn't even want to know what they got him out with his last at bat. He wasn't even thinking about at bats. All he was thinking about was his next swing. He wasn't thinking about how they got him out. He didn't want to know anything about the pitchers. He said now he's seen him mature into a guy that knows all the pitchers, even though he's new in this league. He works the counts. He does everything that a good hitter does. In fact, he hits more home runs on 1 and 2 now than he ever did.
Past the diving Grace, a base hit for Langford. Cardinals need to have 5 men reach base for McGwire to get up in the 8th inning.
Well, let's take a look at Mark McGwire. See that uppercut, more of an uppercut in 1991 when he really struggled. See, that's a lot more level swing right there than he had in 1991, and that was one of the reasons that he struggles so much in 91. A lot of pop-ups, and you always could throw the ball above his belt. High fastballs could get him out. Now he lays off of those pitches, and he handles them a lot better because he doesn't have as big an uppercut as he had then.
It was the year that McGwire just hit rock bottom. His personal life, the professional. He had a divorce, and he just couldn't hit.
Well, John, I think in part the way pitchers pitch him, they're actually pitching to his strength in a lot of cases. You try to keep the ball down, and he swings with that uppercut. He loves the low pitch, so you're pitching to his strength. But you say, okay, you can throw him up and get him out. But by the same token, if you throw him up